What's up, Movement Masters? It's Shawn Myszka, Movement Master in OptimizeMovement.com, giving you with another movement lesson. You know, at speaking engagements at conferences or via email or other modes and means of social media, I'm often asked what really makes up an expert movement specialist, a movement coach, or movement practitioner. You know, and after routinely hearing this question frequently enough, I really started to give it much more thought. I wanted to have more to offer people than just some prepackaged answer for that question. So I put together a little more comprehensive model, framework, and idea in regards to what really makes up the special movement coach and what in the skill set, as you can see behind me, really entails. And today I'm going to share that with you all. Okay, when you think about my guiding objective of my movement philosophy, remember that it is to optimize the displayed movement for the athlete when and where it counts. Okay, and in order for this to really occur, and for me to have the impact that I know that I need to, I know that I need to have some sort of sport movement whisper mixed with some good equal parts of movement scientist, okay? And this is kind of what really leads to this framework that you see behind me of what the skill set standard that I have for myself and always attempt to evaluate myself on to try and guide my own mastery and development of my craft. You know, the thing is, I'm always striving to make this pie bigger and beefier, if you will, as well as more balanced, or as balanced as it potentially can be, between the four quadrants that I'm about to explain for you here today. When we really start to think about this, if I get off balanced in regards to any of these four categories behind me, I find that my entire movement practice with my athletes suffers. My approach with my athletes then gets skewed, and the progress for them, which is the thing that's my main concern, starts to become more limited. And you know, so I kind of reside on this then when I give myself my checkpoints anytime that I'm trying to do continuing education of any sort for myself. Okay, this is the blueprint that I've used in my own development then, and how I feel you all can use it to apply to become a more masterful movement specialist. First, I want you to note how around the circle, around the skill set circle, I have listed science and art on each side of the skill set pie chart. Okay, science and art over here. But what I want to make a mention to is this is simply arbitrary, which is, you know, kind of signified by these arrows on each side along the pie chart. The reason for this is this needs to be simply arbitrary to a certain degree, as each category that I'm about to explain to you is going to have a certain degree and blend of both science and art, yet some aspects are going to be more firmly planted in one versus the other, and that's why they're listed where they are. When we start to really break down this pie chart, we start here with the knowledge quadrant or the knowledge category. And really what I mean here is I'm talking about the possession of a deep and thorough knowledge of the vast number of sports sciences that we need to possess in order to be the best movement practitioner we can be. I'm talking here in regards to ideas of kinesiology, biomechanics, motor learning, motor control, as well as in exercise and sport physiology. And then mixing it and blending psychology. And then finally we look at ideas of strength and conditioning. These sports scientists kind of continually, cumulatively add up for us to a huge can of worms, obviously. And we can never know enough, another obvious point. So therefore we must continue to learn more from either books or mentors or conferences or wherever it is that we can. And of course, the info is always continually changing, so we can't allow ourselves to get stuck in our own ways. Otherwise, this knowledge quadrant will stay very limited if we don't continually update it. Moving on to the second quadrant, or the second idea of science, if you will, of the movement specialist skill set, is movement analysis. Okay? And simply put, when we watch movement, we must possess the ability to understand what's happening, and then accurately assessed why it's happening. And this understanding then is that which kind of guides the current biodynamic structure to that predicted model of what that athlete could potentially be and what their authentic movement signature should look like. So this involves a certain degree of experience and speculation. We have to understand what it is that we're watching, what's contributing to it, so the what's and the whys of the movement, and then where it is that we want to go later. Okay? Movement specialists now in this day and age kind of think they have this area licked because they might use the functional movement screen or some other movement screening idea. But as you guys probably know, what I'm talking about here is the true study of sport movement as it occurs in its organic, chaotic environment. And of course, this analysis, to get this analysis block to be as big and beefy as we desire it for it to be, to guide and assist us in all other areas, we need a vast amount of practice and time in truly analyzing sport movement because it's very complex to be able to understand. Moving on then, as we kind of move around the pie chart, we find the prescription block. And this really involves knowing how we can impact the brain, the biomechanics, and the displayed behavior of the athlete within their movement skills and within their sport. Of course, this involves somewhat of a backward engineering, if you will, from this movement analysis block that we just talked about. And while using the knowledge that we talked about a little earlier as well. So we're kind of blending in this analysis and the knowledge of where it is that we need to go in order to improve and increase movement skill acquisition and increase the level of sport movement mastery. This area also involves the correct use, employment, and application of given drills and exercises to adequately influence the athlete's movement as well as their training breakdown. And what I mean by that is program design variables. Not only drills and exercises, but when to use them, why you're using them, and then how to prescribe them accurately. Intensity, sets, reps, rest, etc. Okay? Finally, the final area that we move into here is when we get to the guidance portion of our movement coach and specialist skill set. This portion, of course, involves the ever so important teaching and coaching of the athlete. Okay? This is really about learning how we can go about taking our role to elicit change in the increase in the level of movement mastery. Obviously, we must be able to always strive to connect to the athlete and their movement optimization process. We also need to be able to select the most effective means of communication to get through to the athlete to get the desired response from the athlete and in the movement. And of course, this area here, this guidance area, involves a tremendous degree and deal here of intuition, insight, instinct, feel, and perception, as we know that every athlete's journey is going to be different from the rest. So there you have it, the movement specialist skill set. It's something that I feel like if we try to really strive to make each one of these the best that it can be for ourselves personally, we're going to make sure that no stone goes unturned for our athletes, and we're going to be able to impact them when and where it counts, which is in sport. So for another movement lesson, this has been Shawn Myszka, Movement Master and OptimizeMovement.com. I'll talk to you guys next time, and until then, let's all continue to master the art of optimizing movement.